We are Ole Miss Rebels. As Mississippi's flagship university, we dig deeper, see farther, work harder. We pioneered human organ transplants. We helped prove Einstein's theory of gravitational waves. We are conducting life-changing research that solves the problems of today. We are Ole Miss, transforming lives and the world.
Hey, welcome to the POMcast with Stephen Willis. We're going to start in a few minutes, but I want to tell you to hit up our social sites, retweet, share, comment, like, do all of that stuff. It can only help us out and it'll make the show even better. But we're getting ready to give you a lot of good Ole Miss information, and I just thought I would tell you that because the POMcast is starting. Well, it's starting right now. Wait, no, that's a little early. It is starting right about now. All right, good morning. Welcome. Thursday morning, SEC football is here. Thank God it is finally here. This offseason that has lasted forever is finally over. Tennessee and Bowling Green tonight on SEC Network. I'm looking forward to that game, even if Bowling Green is not very good. So be it at this point. I'm just happy to have football back and what's going on with them. I am your host, Stephen Willis, and I am very happy to be here. Before we get started, I do want to tell you about Travel and Cruise World. Travel and Cruise World, 1-800-330-7461, 1-800-330-7461. Basically, what I was trying to do is, this has been going on for 18 months. Everybody needs a vacation at this point. And different rule changes can cause a vacation to be ruined. Let's just be honest about that. It can cause it to be ruined. Well, these guys are in a position where they're on the ground. They're local. If you're going to Disney, if you're going to Universal, you're going to the beach, these guys know what the rules are in the different places and can help you out. So give them a call at 1-800-330-7461, travelandcruiseworld.com. See Central Florida like a local. Also, if you want to watch the show, you can catch us on Twitter at @TheStephenWillis or at Ole Positively. You can watch on Facebook at facebook.com/POMcast. We're available on YouTube at Positively Ole Miss. Subscribe, hit the bell. You'll not only know that we're streaming, you'll know what we're streaming about. And also follow us on Twitch at Positively Ole Miss, all one word. We're starting to figure out a little bit on Twitch. We got our first troll spammer last week, so that was pretty interesting. So once we figure out all that stuff, we will get that. We will try and grow that as much as we can. Maybe it'll look like our YouTube program, which is going up, up, up. Also, if podcasts are more your thing, you want to listen to the show, you can catch us on Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Spotify, iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, and Pandora. Well, and Amazon and Audible. We're actually on most everything. Just search Positively Ole Miss. You can find it. Also, leave a review on the Apple Podcast app. It doesn't matter what you say. Just leave a 5-star review. That'll help with the algorithm moving further, and you can see what's needed to find the show. That'll help other people. Also, we've about hit the point where it's time to start evangelizing the show. We are growing. It's now at the point I just, if you could retweet it, if you could share it, if you could like it, if you could do anything, because we are a social media only show. We do not have the benefit of a captive audience like other places like the Spirit and the Rivals site. We don't have that benefit. This is a social media only product. This is the first of its kind. And we do YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, all that simulcast at once. This is to help out Ole Miss fans and to give them another avenue because, the guys from Biscuits and SEC, Bossman Slim's going to be on the show Saturday to break down all of the SEC games. But they have a word on their site, and they introduced me to it yesterday. It's called Finalysis, and it sums up this site to a T because I have 20 years in the media. I left the media because I didn't like what it was becoming. 3 years in the Manning Center, and I've been a lifelong Ole Miss fan. You won't find that perspective anywhere else because that perspective doesn't exist anywhere else. And, we try to bring that to you on this show and the other stuff, Best of the West, SEC After Dark, the SEC Preview Show, all of that stuff to get information because we want this to be a value for you. Whenever you look at the cost-risk analysis, we don't want to waste too much of your time. We're not going to talk about inane things. We're going to keep it on topic. It's either going to be Ole Miss or SEC or Disney once it gets slow, by the way. The annual pass program, by the way, is launching in 5 days. I can't be more excited. I can finally start to do what I planned on down here when I decided to move in Central Florida. So I'm really excited about that. Signing at Disney, also, they replaced the Fast Pass things are gone, and now the Lightning Lane stuff is going up. And if you need questions about that, search Genie Plus if you're going to Disney in the future and you want to learn about what needs to be done. Or you can contact Travel and Cruise World, and they can tell you what is going to be needed for your trip. So I recommend it, very much recommend it. So, SEC football is back. It is absolutely back. I got a little bit of a tickle in my throat, so bear with me in my cough. And Tennessee takes on Bowling Green, and it's a game that I expect Tennessee to win easily. I don't know if they're going to cover. I think it's like 35.5 points. That makes me very nervous for that team because you're looking at a situation where if Bowling Green scores 10, they almost have to hang a 50 burger to cover because the logical, like 42, 45, 52, 49. Like a 49-10 would cover. Now, they could do it, but I have questions. I haven't seen this marriage of quarterback Joe Milton and Josh Heupel before. I don't know what that looks like. And I'm interested to see it tonight. So I'm hesitant to deal with betting on this line and taking Tennessee to cover. I'm more likely to take Bowling Green in the points, even though Bowling Green was awful last year. They could be better this year. They absolutely could be better this year, but they were awful last year, like averaging like 7 or 8 points a game, giving up 38 a game. Yeah, it was bad last year for the Falcons in Bowling Green, Ohio. Not Kentucky, Bowling Green, Ohio. So I'm looking forward to that game. That game is 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Central on the SEC Network. Tonight also is Ohio State and Minnesota. The Big Ten trying to get off on the right foot after last year. Let's just call it what it is. A disaster of a season for the conference. And doing that, they're trying to give you Ohio State and Minnesota to give you good thoughts going into this year. And we still are going to remember what happened last year. Absolutely. But, I'm interested in PJ Fleck, them rowing the boat in Minnesota, the Golden Gophers. Interested in that. What does Minnesota look against CJ Stroud, the starting quarterback for Ohio State? I know he's going to be good. It's the Bryce Young argument all over again. But until it happens, it hasn't happened. There's always a potential for a Jeremy Johnson to happen. You remember Jeremy Johnson? For 6 months, we heard about how great he was and how great he was going to be a quarterback, and Auburn's just completely set and everything's good to go, and he just completely, when the lights went on, fell apart. Similar situation happened at Ole Miss in 2004. Do y'all remember 2004? Beginning of the season against Memphis? All the hype leading up there with Michael Spurlock being the quarterback. And the lights came on. I think that game he was 9 of 30 for 120 yards. He struggled, unbelievably struggled. He got another start, struggled again, and eventually you had the three-headed monster at the end of the year. And, heck, by the end of the year, Robert Lane was starting at quarterback against LSU and against Mississippi State. And people don't know this. Whenever they melt down over the "we don't settle for mediocrity" group when they got rid of David Cutcliffe. They had meetings to design this offense for the offseason. This is before Tebow. This is right when Urban Meyer was making the spread famous. He was going out to Utah. But there were concrete plans to introduce a version of the spread offense that we kind of saw them tinkering with against LSU and against Mississippi State that year. That would have been successful with Robert Lane as the quarterback. That was going to solve the quarterback issue. And there were concrete plans in place to put that in motion. Instead, we hire Ed Orgeron. He wants to bring the USC offense in. He couldn't get a USC assistant coach to coach the offense because that guy was supposed to be Lane Kiffin, by the way, who ended up not taking the job. And system changes happen. You ended up with the offense, a 3-8 in the first year. They went 4-7 the next year. They went 3-9 the last year, and boom, it's gone. And then Houston Nutt comes in with those same guys, wins several games. So, it's just an interesting little point, like a point of history. That little decision, whenever we did that with Robert Kayat and the "we're not going to accept mediocrity at Ole Miss anymore" speech, I just remember that fairly clear. Let's move on to the Ole Miss offense versus Louisville. I do want to talk today about what I want to see, the breakout players that could emerge from that game. And I'm not going to name Matt Corral because it's expected at this point. But I'm excited to see Dontario Drummond in the slot. It was interesting. They toyed last year after Elijah Moore opted out for the rest of the year. They toyed with the idea of Jonathan Mingo playing in the slot, and it just didn't work for whatever reason. In the bowl game, Jaden Jackson was in that position. But in the offseason, they had a chance to tinker during spring practice and whatever was going on. And they decided that Dontario Drummond was the guy that best fit their needs. And let's be real about what's happening here. This is nobody can replace Elijah Moore. That receiver's not in the room. So we need to Frankenstein's monster this position just a little bit. And Dontario Drummond, a big guy, he can mix a little bit and do a little bit of the stuff that Kenny Yeboah did even as well. So the middle of the field's taken care of there. John Rice Plumlee, jet sweep guy, can attack the area between the linebacker and the free safety. And Jacour Pearson, a diminutive guy, has a little bit of that wiggle that Elijah Moore happens. Number 0, by the way, changed his number to number 0. And he'll be in a position to run a little jet sweep, a little crossing route. He has a role in this offense as well. And then you have the young guy, J.J. Henry, that could pop up later in the year. Because I expect the young guys to start flashing as the season goes on, if not necessarily the first game. So I'm looking forward to all of those things. Now, Louisville's defense, they got C.J. Avery. Do you guys remember C.J. Avery? From Grenada, Mississippi. He's a Mississippian. They have Gunnar Brewer as the wide receivers coach, Jack McNell as the offensive line coach, and B. Brown is the defensive coordinator. And on defense, him being the defensive coordinator, his defenses over the years have been known as a ball hawking unit. At Appalachian State, on into Louisville, and that is probably I expect defensive backs to have good ball skills at Louisville for this game. Now, one thing to keep in mind is they had to replace both safeties, and they have a transfer from Georgia Southern playing one of the safety positions. So I don't really know what he looks like. Linebackers are all about, the 2 linebackers or 3 linebackers, because they really run a 3-3-5. You'll hear 3-4, but it's really a 3-3-5 because the 4th linebacker weighs 195 pounds. He's the equivalent of that nickelback position that we have. So the linebackers are 225 to 235. The defensive line's a little bit undersized. Both of the ends. This is a three-man front, and both of the ends are in the 255 to 260 range, with a nose at about 280. So that tells me that this defense is going to be predicated on movement. So they're going to slant. They're going to do all this stuff. They're going to think about Vandy in the early 2013, 2012 era with James Franklin, with John Shute. And you'll see a little bit of movement. So our offensive line has to be on the P's and Q's because they're going to move around and not hit you where you're expecting to be hit. Now, that being the case, with the size of our offensive line and the size of their defensive line and linebackers, if we get our hands on them, we can run the ball. And I expect to run the ball in this game. I expect Jerry and Ely and Henry Parrish, even Snoop Connor. And by the way, people worried about Snoop Connor popping up at 4th on the depth chart. Snoop Connor has a role, an absolute role on this team. And that is the short yardage back and the end of the game punishing back. So I think you will see Snoop Connor in the 4th quarter. I think you'll see him on 3rd and 1 and things like that. But Henry Parrish is going to be the guy that's going to back up Jerry and Ely. And Kentrell Bullock apparently has had a really good camp. The question whenever you see Snoop Connor at 4 is not why is Snoop Connor at 4, is how good has Kentrell Bullock performed this year? That's the question that needs to be asked. And we will find out Monday night. That's the great thing about this. Now, this being Thursday, we got the Tennessee game tonight. I am looking forward to the ACC game tomorrow. I think it's North Carolina, Virginia Tech. I am looking forward to that. Saturday is going to be utterly fantastic. It just is going to be great. I'm just going to be useless that day. Florida State, Notre Dame on Sunday. I have a fantasy football draft during that, but I'm interested to see which Florida State quarterback takes the field, and is that quarterback Mackenzie Milton, and what does he look like against that defense? Because Notre Dame has to replace Clark Lee, who's at Vanderbilt now, so that defense is going to look a little different. And then Monday night, we have a lot of stuff. We have a lot of stuff planned for you. We're going to talk about it in just a little bit. Let's see. I need to reset this real quick. All right, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll tell you exactly what we have on the agenda for the next couple of days through the ball game, even after the ball game, really. And maybe, if you're lucky, get a couple minutes back. But either way, stick around. All right, welcome back to the POMcast. I'm your host, Stephen Willis. Thank you very much. Ole Miss versus Louisville, 8 o'clock Monday night Eastern Time, 7 o'clock Central. I'm looking forward to that. I think all of you are looking forward to that. Just want to let you know after the game, for patrons only, a patron-exclusive event, we're going to have a show called Reb Calls, where you can have a chat, you can have a call, you can say whatever's going on in your mind about the Ole Miss game, what you just watched. You can hot take it all day long, but it is just for patrons. It is called Reb Calls, and you can join our Patreon for as little as $3. We'll get you in, and that'll just keep a nice intimate setting, and we can talk about all of that together. I'm looking forward to that. Also, tomorrow we're going to do a review of the Tennessee game is basically what it's going to be. I'll go along with the Louisville offense and the Ole Miss defense portion. But Saturday morning, Biscuits and SEC previews the week in the SEC. All that's going to be available on demand starting at 6 a.m. Listen to that, watch that. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to also put all those shows on the podcast. Sunday at 6 a.m., available on demand. Marshae Green, 15 minutes about the 2021 Rebels, his playing career, playing in Canada, all of that stuff. That's really cool as well. Monday morning, a preview with Cameron Teague from the Louisville Courier Journal, talking about Louisville football and all the storylines from their perspectives. I made sure to ask very specific questions about those guys and not spend so much time about Ole Miss, because we've all heard about Ole Miss. But questions about how Ole Miss would attack those, very, very good stuff. That's 6 a.m. Monday morning. Monday at 10 during the POMcast, we're going to do a pregame show. Well, it's kind of going to be a pregame show, but it's going 30 minutes. How many yards do you think you throw? I think between 325 and 375. That's how many yards do you think Matt Corral will throw Monday night? I do expect him to play a good game. There are ball hawks in the secondary for Louisville, and that is an undersized defensive line, like I said earlier. So the running game might have something to do, but I think some big plays will happen. There's some ball hawks back there in the secondary for Louisville. And as always, the chat's always open. Even if you can't see it, the chat is open, and I'm here to interact with you any way I can. It's just comment in one of the streams, and it will show up on my screen. So that's pretty cool. So all of that's going on, and the POMcast on Tuesday will be a reaction to the game, talking about what happened. I'm going to try to leave some exclusivity of my analysis with the Reb Calls show. Don't know exactly how well that will happen. So that should be pretty cool as well. So I'm looking forward to Reb Calls. Like I said, $3. You can get in. It's going to be an intimate session where basically it's for patrons only. You can sign up to our Patreon, and we can just have a little talk in the post game and do all the hot takes and what's going on, and just be a little community, because this is about community. At its end, this is about giving you an avenue to follow Ole Miss and have fun doing it. That's the whole goal behind this. And I do appreciate everybody's listening, everybody's watching, but that's what we're ultimately trying to get to. We're trying to be an independent community, essentially a Facebook group. But we're going to do some cool things with video, and we're going to give you guys perks that others really can't do, because there's not a whole bunch of like this out there. And this just happened because I've worked in TV for 20 years, so I have a little bit of experience, so I'm able to produce this myself, and I'm not relying on other people, and so overhead isn't a huge thing. So yeah, all right, so that gives a little recap of what's going on this weekend. I'm probably going to give you a couple minutes back, but I'm really looking forward to the Tennessee game tonight. I do want to see Joe Milton, because that Josh Heupel offense is really similar to what we run. There's a lot of overlap in the principles, because that Josh Heupel offense is basically somebody that watched Baylor games and just tried to recreate it, as opposed to being in the Baylor system. So it's right church, wrong pew when it comes to that offense, but a lot of overlap there. So he's had quarterbacks Drew Lock and Dylan Gabriel where he's been previously. Now he's got somebody different. I'm interested to see what Joe Milton looks like behind center for that offense. I'm interested in seeing Jabari Small, what he looks like. Eric Gray's moved off to Oklahoma, and Ty Chandler's at North Carolina. And they had so many transfers. Henry To'oTo'o is at Alabama playing linebacker. I think 2 or 3 players went from Tennessee to Oklahoma. I mean, it was a mass exodus. And I don't know, Archie was like, we don't need to be talking about the Tennessee mass exodus anymore. And, he's probably right. So I do want to thank everybody. We're gonna stop the show right there because Archie decided that we needed to stop the show right there, and in doing so, we will see you tomorrow. Enjoy the SEC football. Enjoy everything, and there's still time left to sign up to be a patron for the Reb Call show. So do that. But until then, I'm Stephen Willis. We'll see you tomorrow.